Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time zone you happen to be in, welcome to Leaders Worldwide. I am Isaac Ford, the Sergeant at Arms, and I guess what I would tell you, cut off those cell phones because they seem to pop in at the wrong time.
Amen.
Club mission. We provide a positive, supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Core values: integrity, respect, service, and excellence. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our charter president, Cynthia Stott. Cynthia, take the podium.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And I know for at least one of our guests, it is early morning, and that's Mario. And he will be our table topics master as well. So Mario, would you like to introduce yourself, say where you're calling in from, and maybe what time of day it is? Are you frozen?
Sounds off.
Your mute button is on. Okay, I think Mario is having trouble locating his mute button. Let's move to our other guest. We have Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Where are you calling in from?
Good evening, good morning, good wherever you are. Greetings. I'm calling in from the United States, Laurel, Maryland, and I am happy to visit again one more time.
Great, and that's
Thank
near
you.
Washington, D.C., right?
Yes, correct.
And you're late at night. You're 3 hours after us, so you're 9
Yes,
o'clock in the
it's now
evening.
9:02 p.m. Yes.
So we're doing the full gamut here on the call. Glad to have you here. Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome. And Mario, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. I'll be the guest for Leaders Worldwide today, and I'll be your table topics later in the second half of the meeting. Thank you for having me.
And where are you calling in from, and what time is it?
From Slovenia, it's 3 in the morning now.
3 in the morning. From 3 in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. Wow, we're the whole gamut. Great, great. And we have Judith Ferber.
I am
Welcome.
coming from Santa Monica, Los Angeles.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's the same time there as it is for me in San Francisco. So 6:03 p.m. Awesome. And our other guests, we have Rosemary. You're coming back in as a member, and you're our timer today. Hi, Rosemary.
Sound is off.
Yes, I am coming back in as a member, and I am the timer for this evening.
Awesome. And you're calling in from where?
I'm calling in from Dominica in the Caribbean, and it is 9:04.
Wonderful, wonderful. Worldwide for sure. Great. So Benjamin, you're a guest. Can you unmute yourself? Would you like to tell us where you're calling in from and introduce yourself?
Hello, good morning, y'all. My name is Benjamin. I'm calling in from Uganda. It's just 4 a.m.
4
Beautiful
a.m. So
morning here.
early morning for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Great. We're so glad to
Thank
have
you.
you. And this is a Toastmasters meeting. So it's about speaking and leadership. So I think you're going to be in for a special treat.
This is my cup of tea. Thank you for having me.
Great. Good idiom. Cup of tea. Awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then it's my pleasure now to welcome our Toastmaster of the day, who is none other than our resident expert of many things, Isaac Ford. Please welcome Isaac Ford.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Yes, I am the Toastmaster of today, and we are in for a fabulous meeting. The theme is words of wisdom. So I'd like to start you off with a quote. Well, this is in his book by Dale Carnegie, and it says, "A person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound in any language." And I've learned that from personal experience. I used to go to this Taco Bell, which was right up the street from me. And every lunch break, I learned the manager's name and I would call her by her name, Susan. So Susan, she knew me. So every time I come in, she says, "You want the regular?" And of course I said, "Yeah," which was a Nacho Bel Grande. So she would load it up with all this beef and cheese is overflowing. And I mean, it's a special. And every time I would go down at the to eat it, people would say, "Wow, that's not on the menu. Where'd you get that?" I say, "Well, that's the chef's special made just for me." So calling people by their name really pays off. Now, this meeting, we have a lot of things going on, and I'm going to introduce our general evaluator tonight, who will kind of tell us the functionaries of the night. So the GE is Taze. Taze, would you take the podium?
Thank you, Toastmaster of the meeting. I am the general evaluator for tonight's meeting, and my role is, the purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate everything that takes place throughout the meeting. During the meeting, I will take notes on everything that happens and doesn't happen. I will evaluate each participant on the meeting program and look for good examples of preparation, organization, delivery, enthusiasm, observation, and performance of duties. At the end of the meeting, I will give my report. Thank you, Toastmaster of the meeting.
Okay. First, I want to announce our grammarian. So Sally, would you let us know what you're going to be doing tonight?
Thank you, Isaac. This is a wonderful theme today, words of wisdom. And I have attached introspection to our word of the day. The examination or observation of one's own mental or emotional practices and processes. So clue into your own. And I'm also looking for unnecessary words, as in so, but, and short pieces like that, that if we can learn to eliminate them, we would have much more powerful meaning to the point we're trying to get across. And I also look for the special phrases that you never hear or seem very unique. And thank you. That's what my job is today. And looking
Great.
forward to counting. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for that, Sally.
Yeah.
Next, I want to bring up the timer. And today our timer is Rosemary Sweeney. Rosemary, would you explain your role?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. This evening, I will be the timer. And there is a quote in our words of wisdom that time is money and we should not waste our time, just as we should not waste our money. So have some introspection and reflect on how we spend and use our time and how we spend and use our money so we can save both. I will be timing the whole meeting. Our meeting started on time so far. And our speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. I will show the timing lights. At 5 minutes, I will display the green background. At 6 minutes, the yellow. And at 7 minutes, the red speaker has 30 seconds to wrap up. There will be our table topic session, and our table topic session, the speakers are required to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, there will be the green background, the 1.5, 1 minute, 30 seconds, the yellow, 2 minutes, the red. So again, 30 seconds to wrap up. And we also have evaluations, and our evaluators will speak for 2 to 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes, the green background, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, the yellow, 3 minutes, the red. Again, we have 30 seconds to wrap up, and we should speak within time. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the meeting.
Thank you for that, Rosemary. So now the fun part of a Toastmasters meeting is the prepared speeches. And first, we have Dorothy King, and her evaluator is going to be Lynn Fraley. So Lynn, would you let us know the objectives of her speech?
Yes, of course. Actually, no, I'm not prepared to read that. I'm thinking about my own speech. I'm sure you could look at the agenda. I don't have it sitting in front
Well,
of me.
you know what? I got it if you want me to read it.
Don't mind doing that, Isaac. Thank you so much.
No problem. Dorothy is going to be speaking from the Engaging Humor, number 3, Project 9. He is to share aspects of the experience of keeping a daily record of moods and attitudes, feeling positive or negative, successes and efforts, and 3 things for which the speaker is grateful, recorded and evaluate changes in behavior or the behavior of others. Dorothy King is a mental health professional, a registered nurse, a self-published author, and a poet and a certified domestic violence facilitator. The title of her speech, Focus on the Positive. 2, Focus on the Positive. Dorothy King.
Have you ever participated in a negotiation? By a show of hands, who has participated in a negotiation? I see Isaac and Lynn have. Let me tell you, I'd like for you to come with me on a journey that began in Nashville, Tennessee. I had taken a job there as a radiology transcriptionist. They had held the job for me for 2 weeks while I moved from Georgia to Tennessee. I was excited. I was so very grateful to have the job. It was a new experience. I didn't know any of the people. So I hit the ground running, needless to say. During my initial orientation, I was told that there would be evaluations given on an annual basis. At the end of each year, I would sit down for an evaluation. Oh my goodness, I was excited about that. So the first evaluation came and I put on a 2-piece suit and a silk blouse and met with the department head. And he sat in front of me and said, "Hello, Mrs. King. You've done a good job. We're glad to have you on board. And here's your evaluation." I looked at the paper that he gave me and I froze in my seat. Now, the system that we had, the highest score that a person could make was a score of 9. I had a 4 on that evaluation. I looked at him and I said, "I'm sorry, sir, I can't sign this. My work is better than a 4. He looked at me with a puzzled expression on his face and said, "You're not signing to say that you accept the 4. You're signing to say you saw the evaluation." Now, I thought that was a crafty statement on his part, but it did not change my perspective. I still said, "Sir, I cannot sign this." So he stood and I stood and I left the room. A week later, he called me back into his office and he did change the score. I was so glad of that, but he changed it to a 5. But since he did change the score, I decided to let that rest. And I also made up my mind that I would start keeping a record. I would watch my attitude, make sure that it was positive, but I would keep a record of the things that I was doing. And I would not take a negative stance because I did not get the kind of evaluation score that I thought I should. Needless to say, for the second evaluation, I put on a 2-piece suit, a silk blouse, and I had my documentation. I brought all kinds of paperwork and everything with me to say, this is what I've done in the past year. And I began to show him the things that I thought would impress him. He had made a decision. He gave me my evaluation and it was a 5. The same thing he had changed it to for the prior year. And with everything inside of me, I had to sit there and muster the courage to say, sir, I cannot sign this. I don't understand. Ms. King, this is signing to say that you saw the evaluation, not that you agree with it. I'm sorry, sir, I cannot sign that. So he stood and I walked out of his office. And all of a sudden it hit me, this man could fire me at any point. I'm going in his office and refusing to sign the evaluations. He could let me go. But he called me in a week later and he changed it to a 7. Oh my goodness, I was elated. I thought, he finally gets it. But I went back out and I started working just fervently. I also decided that I would get letters of recommendation from some of the people at the facilities that we did business with, so that would justify and show him that I was a very definite asset to the department. I also had situations where the doctors who gave reports on their radiology and mammography exams would mix up the breasts. They would be doing a right breast and they would talk about a left breast. And I would catch those kinds of things and correct it. So I kept all of that. Needless to say, year 3 rolled around. I had on a 2-piece suit and a silk blouse. And I went in and I had every manner of documentation under the sun. I had copies of x-ray reports, the letters of recommendation from the different people that I had gotten them from. I was ready for him. The next words out of his mouth were, Ms. King, would you consider going back to school if you got a scholarship to go to college? I was stunned. I sat there and I could not believe my ears. We have a program here. If your supervisor recommends you for the nursing program, we will pay full scholarship, tuition, and books. Oh, absolutely. Yes, I will take that. He gave me an 8 on my evaluation. I didn't have to present any of the information that I had gathered up to give him. And I was going to school. But as soon as I walked out of his office, I thought, oh my goodness, he wants me out of his department. And he'll do anything to get me out of this department. But I still dug my heels in and I began to do my work. He came out, once I was accepted in the nursing program, he came out and said to me, I'm going to allow you to work 24 hours for 40. You'll only have to work on Saturday and Sunday, and you won't need to come in during the week. I was speechless. But then he said, and if you have homework assignments, you can do those on the job if you're not busy. I was humbled because it was so obvious that this man was trying to help me. Fast forward, I finished the nursing program with honors, and I'm so grateful for the fact that I was able to stand my ground and stand on the information that I knew from the very beginning would carry me through. The fact that I was authentic, I was transparent with him, I believed in myself, and I knew that I did a good job. But had I given up anywhere along the way, who knows what would have happened? So I'm here to say that silent negotiations will and can occur. I didn't even realize I was negotiating, but I was in the negotiation of my life, and I won that negotiation. Are you now in a silent negotiation? It happens every day between spouses. They discuss things, and one spouse has one opinion and the other one has another. That's a negotiation. Children, siblings are in negotiations with one another. They're trying to win their parents' favor. My advice to you, if you find that you're in the middle of a negotiation, stand your ground and always be firm in the knowledge of who you are. Never give up your principles and win that negotiation. Madam Timer.
Thank you for that, Dorothy. So now, Timer, would you put 1 minute on the clock so we can send our notes to Dorothy? Great, okay. Our second speaker is Dr. Michelle Petticolis, and her evaluator will be Dorothy King. Dorothy, would you let us know what the objectives is of her speech?
Yes. It's coming from the pathway of effective coaching, level 3, Introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. She will present a speech about a time when being a protege. She will share the impact and importance of having a mentor. Avoid reporting on the content of this project. And the title of her speech is My Mentor in Leadership. Back to you.
Great, thank
Mr.
you.
Toastmaster.
Dr. Michelle Petticolis is an international speaker, distinguished Toastmaster, select distinguished area director, a 2-time Speechcraft executive director, and currently a club coach. Founder of Secrets of Life and Death. She helps smart men and women dealing with a major life challenge to release the past and shift their perspectives so that they can find their unique creative gift and to share with the world. Dr. Michelle Petticolis, my mentor in leadership. My mentor in leadership. Dr. Michelle, you have the podium.
Can you all hear me and see me?
Yes.
Great. I never had a mentor. That was my reaction when I saw the video in Pathways about introduction to mentorship. I wanted one. A mentor listens, asks vital questions, holds space, and gives advice as needed. I'd had teachers, I'd had coaches, micromanagers, no mentor. But I had to give a speech, so I stretched the definition of mentorship to include a little bit of teaching and coaching and micromanaging. The mentor I want to talk about today is my mentor in leadership, who is none other than our famous Cynthia Stock. When I joined Heart to Heart, my first Toastmaster club, I had no idea about being a leader. 6 months later, I was the president of Heart to Heart. And Cynthia came up to me and she said, "I'll be your mentor." Good thing, because there is a lot to learn when you're a president of a club. But what I want to talk about tonight is when she mentored me as a speechcraft executive director. She called me 2 years after I had been president. I had just gotten out. And she said, Michelle, how would you like to be a speechcraft coordinator? I replied, why would I want to do that? Because you need that to get a distinguished Toastmaster award. Do I need that? It's the highest level of Toastmasters that an individual can achieve. Okay. Then she said, and when you do the speechcraft, we're going to try and start a new club in leadership. And all your new members in Heart to Heart can take it and be trained. And your more experienced Toastmasters can get an opportunity to step into their leadership. Now I'm leaning in. I love the idea of killing 3 Toastmasters goals with 1 stone. What she didn't quite explain right away was this was going to be a speechcraft on steroids. That's right. Instead of the 5 mentees or 5 speechcrafters, we were going to have more like 35 and more speechcraft coordinators. So I actually turned that into a high performance leadership project. I do like to add everything in with that 1 stone. I learned 3 really super valuable lessons in being a speechcraft executive director. Number 1, I learned how to manage teams, especially volunteer teams where people often go missing in action. I needed those coordinators to show up, or what was I going to do? So I set the limits. I set the boundaries. I said, if you're going to get the speechcraft coordinator credit, you need to show up for 6 out of our 8 meetings. It worked for 2 out of my 3 coordinators. Second lesson, have a plan B and C and D and E. You never know what's going to happen. Cynthia and I were plan B. If our speaker for the evening didn't show up, Cynthia or I would just jump in there and give the training. Or if one of the coordinators didn't show up, we could do that too. Although we had some backup coordinators that would come along. Now, the most difficult thing I had to learn was lesson 3, thinking outside the box. You see, I'm a fixed sign. I also have a moon in Virgo, which means I like all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted. So it's hard for me to think out of the box. I think if I prepare real well, it'll all go fine. My eye-opening experience happened when we moved our speechcraft project from the Bellevue Club. Oh, what an amazing place. But it charged $75 a week and we couldn't pay for it anymore. We moved to the city center, to, there's a word for this, but I've forgotten it. It's where all the government happens in Oakland. And we showed up there. Cynthia had scheduled a room for us. I showed up 20 minutes early, went up the stairs to the room, and I looked in. Well, I didn't even look in. I sort of peeked in. It was full. But we had 20 minutes, so I relaxed, chatting in the hallway. But then it got to be like 5 of 6. I said, oh my God, what's going on? So I knocked on the door. I said, excuse me. 50 sets of eyes turned and looked at me. I said, we're supposed to come in at 6 o'clock. What time are you finished? The man at the front of the room said, oh no, we have it till 6:30. Okay, sorry. Close the door. Now I'm fuming. I'm walking up and down the halls looking for open rooms or something. What are we gonna do? I come back. Finally, Cynthia has arrived. I start to whine. Cynthia, what are you doing? Cynthia did not bat an eye. She said, well, is there someplace else we can meet? An empty room? How about a hallway? Actually, that hallway down there turns into a cul-de-sac. Well, let's meet there. And so we all moved to this end of the hallway, introduced ourselves. I did a speechcraft training. And by the time I was finished, the room was emptying out. We all moved in there. The lesson: don't let yourself get upset and out of sorts. Then you can never make a good idea or come up with an out-of-the-box solution. Relax. There's always a solution. So those are my 3 main lessons. But there, I've got a red. Is that red behind her? So I have to finish. I'm just going to finish with one last thing. And that is that if you have never had a mentor, you might want to step out and get a mentor. It's a great experience. If you've had a mentor, it might be time for you to become a mentor yourself. And finally, if you want to know how to run a speechcraft on steroids, come to the District 57 Spring Conference. I'm going to be telling you the skinny on how to do that. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Great. Thank you for that speech, Michelle. Now, would you please put 1 minute on the clock for us to write notes to Michelle? Thank you, Timer. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our general evaluator. Taze, take the floor.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the meeting. I am the general evaluator for this evening's meeting, and I would like to introduce our evaluators for our prepared speakers. And our first evaluator will be DeMarie.
Lynn Fraley.
Lynn Fraley. Lynn Fraley. Can you
Thank you so much, Taze. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Great. DeMarie, it is always just a pleasure to hear your speech, and now I get to evaluate you. Wonderful. I loved how you made it an important speech. It was something that we could all learn from. I liked elements of the repetition, the 2-piece suit and the silk shirt. That was a nice way of tying it through throughout the time period that you had. You talked about negotiation, but you really also talked about evaluation, which is a really powerful word for all of us, something that we've all suffered. And I think we've all suffered some of those poor, quote unquote, evaluations that you showed us how well to negotiate. I liked how you made it an important speech, how you acknowledged this person who was not so kind to you and was sitting in this position. and how he ultimately came by to support you in the way that he could. Well, it's the scholarship here. Maybe you can have it. And that he didn't want to get rid of you. Well, you can do your homework on our time. So you honored him and gave the other piece of the negotiation. We don't always know what someone's holding in their own cards. So you gave him honor back. A comment I'll make about the presentation, I stopped counting your gestures. There were lots of them, and there were dozens and dozens actually. And then there were a couple where you went back and forth, where you made it more purposeful. So it's just another reminder for all of us as we sit in these little boxes, how much we can move and how much we need to move. And something I've mentioned before to people, when we go forward on the screen, it's larger than life. So keeping the plane, I think, of the gestures is helpful. You have such a powerful presentation style. I also want to hear you pause. You are so clear. You are so thorough in what you're telling us that a pause for effect, even more, and you do have pauses. It's not that you don't, but even more would just let it land even better. I want to thank you for a really wonderful speech. You did a beautiful job of looking at mood and incorporating mood and showing the variations of that. And I look forward to your next speech. And back to you, Madam. Back to you, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. Oh, no, it's Taze who's the evaluator. Thank you, Isaac, for running a great meeting. And back to you, Taze.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for that evaluation. Job well done. Now we'll call on our second evaluator. And that will be, is it DeMarie now?
Yes.
Right, great. So DeMarie, the virtual lectern is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Evaluator. Michelle Peticola. He starts out by standing to command the attention of everyone that's listening, and that is always a powerful place to be. I learned early on in psychology that when you are standing, you command the stage. And especially if you're in an audience or in an office where someone is sitting and you're standing, you're in control. So she took control of her speech at the very beginning. I love the way that she made us understand the value and the need for having a mentor. Absolutely priceless. If you feel that you need a mentor, seek one. If you've been mentored by someone, become someone else's mentor, because you can pass on valuable information, training, styles, ethics, all kinds of things can be transferred to the person that you have decided to mentor. And if you're being mentored, you can learn all these things from that person. So choose to be just that. If I were to give Michelle any stretch goals, it would be that she lost focus a couple of times. She saw the red color, and that sort of interrupted the flow of what she was saying when she said, I see the red now. And sometimes that can happen because that red is a very vibrant color and it can just hit you in just that way. If I were to give any stretch goals, that would be one. But her vocal variety, her pacing, and the fact that she utilized the full screen, all of that was wonderful. She used the value of taking the pregnant, what we call the pregnant pause in Toastmasters, where you pause for effect. She's very good at that. That's a stretch goal that I always look for in someone else because I'm working on that with myself. So I definitely know it when I see it. She is very good with the pausing and the effects. But overall, Michelle's speech was great. I loved it. The information was very pertinent. So thank you so much for a great speech, Michelle.
Okay. At this point, we are going to take a 5-minute break. So timer, would you please put 5 minutes on the clock? And we will come back at 6:45.
Cynthia, are you there? Um, Lynn? Lynn, are you there?
Yes.
Lynn, I did not receive your evaluation form.
Let's just back channel this. Just send me an email.
Okay.
It's fine.
I don't know.
It's my nemesis. I think it's the dark cloud.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that, Madam Timer. Now we're going to move on to the third portion of our meeting, which is our third prepared speaker, who will be Dr. Nadine James. Lynn Fraley, would you let us know the objectives of her speech?
Actually, that's me.
Oh, Michelle, sorry about that.
That's all right. We're helping each other out. Let me see. I have her speech here somewhere. Okay, here it is. Nadine is giving a speech from, I think it's, oh, I had this information out there. I think it's level 3, and it's
just let Isaac take it over. You know, he's all
No, I've got this purpose of the statement. The purpose of this project is for the member to practice the skills needed to effectively use public relations strategies for any group or situation. The purpose of this speech is for the member to share some aspect of his or her public relations strategy. I just don't have the path and the level in front of me.
Oh, okay. President Mastery, number 4, path 7. Nadine, Dr. Nadine is the president and CEO of Illumination Inc., which means illuminating the minds of the next generation. She is a clinical research scientist who has a background in oncology research. At Illuminations, Dr. James and her team help students who are struggling in school to unlock their full potential, discover their brilliance, and get as enabling them to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The title of her speech, Supporting Students to Discover Their Genius. Dr. Nadine James, supporting students to discover their genius. You have the podium.
Thank you, Isaac. Hello, my name is Dr. Nadine James, and the title of my talk tonight is Supporting Students to Discover Their Genius. Sorry. Okay. So a few years ago, while studying at the University of Buffalo, I was asked to coordinate the National Chemistry Week in the schools in and around the district. And so as I was doing that coordination, I had to go to schools in the suburbs and as well as schools in the inner city to see if my colleagues had all the necessary materials and if they were taking care of the students as we had practiced. And when I went, I was in for a rude awakening, because what I found was that the students in the inner city and the students in the suburbs, they were not getting the same level of education in terms of the sciences. There was a huge disparity. And so that left like an indelible mark on me, like something had to be done about this to close this gap. So a few years ago, and so Illumination was birthed out of that cause. Illumination was birthed. And so a few years ago, President Obama said science is more than a school project or the periodic table or the properties of waves. It is an approach to the world. It is a critical way of understanding and exploring and engaging with the world. And then it gives you the capacity to change that world and to shape that world into this accumulated knowledge. The problem that we have with our education system in the United States is that we have fallen behind for some years now compared to our counterparts on a global scale in terms of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, particularly in science, math, and reading. And the impact of that is that, according to McKinsey, is that students, especially those from underserved communities, will earn $49,000 to $61,000 less over a lifetime, which would impact the US economy by $128 billion to $188 billion every year if we don't do something about closing that gap. And so at Illuminate Nation, our goal or our intent or what we have been doing is trying to close that educational gap in STEAM so that the students in the US will have that ability to compete on a global scale, especially in terms of STEAM fields. At Illuminate Nation, our programming is an integrated program where we have arts, we have enrichment, we have tutoring, and we have test prep. So here are some of the students that I have worked with over the time. These are, as you can see, these are underserved students from marginalized communities, low-income housing, or working-class families. And I just want to highlight a few of these students who I've worked with. At the bottom left-hand corner is Joel, Nathaniel, and Janine. I'm highlighting those students right now because they were my initial students. And on the right hand, in the middle of the screen, this young man is Brian Callwood. And Brian, recently I received this picture telling me that Brian was the recipient of a prestigious scholarship called POSSE, and he has received a 4-year scholarship to DePauw University. These are two of my other students, London and Delancia. They participated in my Kansas Mentor program. London was 4, Delancia was 8, and they were learning how to make healthy snacks, and London was learning how to to decipher the difference between a cancer cell versus a normal cell using paper plates. In our programming, we tend to use certain strategies. One, autonomy, belonging, and the other one, involvement and enjoyment. And so in this particular project, London was given autonomy to choose what she wanted to work on. So she chose this tennis racket. She wanted to work on a woman who had breast cancer. And so she chose this pink tennis racket, gave her curly hair. She gave her a pink hat because she had lost her hair. She gave her beady eyes, a nose, a mouth, and this bead right there. So I asked London, what is that? London said, oh, that's her tooth. And I said, well, why is it that she only has one tooth, London? She's like, well, she lost the rest of them during treatment. And for me, that was a eureka moment because I had forgotten that you can actually lose your teeth during radiation and chemotherapy. So that a part of our strategy is to have them teach us. So she taught me in that moment. So learning for us is there's freedom and ease and discovery as we're teaching our students. Learning, it's not forced, there's no indoctrination, there is no coercion. It should be fun, it should be exploratory, it should be emotionally, intellectually moving, it should be multi-dimensional and layered, it should touch the heart, the mind, and the spirit. And in terms of the active engagement in learning for us involves a portion where there's deep concentration as the students are listening, as somebody's speaking, they are writing, as somebody's reading, and so forth and so forth. And so in the summer of 2017, I met Joel and his sister Janine. And my first impression of Joel was that he was quiet, he was well-mannered, well-trained, and he had presence. Joel participated in our program, and part of the programming that we use in terms of great is in our 6 principles of great science teaching, involving challenge, explanation, modeling, practice, feedback, and questioning. And the skills that we highlight are critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, and character building. So Joel continued participating in our program, and he showed that he was intrinsically motivated, that he took ownership of his education. We didn't have to coerce him. He was an astute scholar. He was always present and on time. So we chose him for a research level project, master's level clinical research project. And Joel chose to do his project on the immune system, and he specifically chose HIV/AIDS. In this project, he was the most challenged student, having 20 research articles to dissect, read, and understand, and present this project to us. And this was what he presented. He told us about the human virus. He told us how it spread. He told us about the symptoms, the stages. the treatments and how to prevent it. And he gave us the references in APA format. Okay. So Joel continued participating in our programs, and one such program was our Cancer Samantha art exhibit, where he learned about the different components of cancer research. So on February of 15 of 2022, I was elated but not surprised when Joel's mom sent me this picture showing me that Joel was the only student in his school district who received the National College Board recognition for outstanding performance. I was elated and beamed, and I know that Joel took Joel practiced until it became permanent. A part of our programming is that we steer our children towards careers in healthcare, 21st century careers in healthcare. And so Joel, in June of this year, he graduated, and Joel, although he could go to medical school, Joel chose to go to do a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing at Pace University, and on a full scholarship. And this was due to the fact that during COVID, Joel's dad had to retire, and so he is taking on the finances of the family. Anyway, Joel Joel motivated me to decide what matters, do what matters, and to deliver to others what matters, ultimately to help students on a global scale discover their brilliance. So what is motivation exemplified? Motivation exemplified is seeing these students at 3 years old and 7 years old, dressed as medical professionals, with the intention of closing the educational gap, closing the excellence gap, and building their wealth and welfare. So what is the future of steering these children towards careers in healthcare or medical professionals? The future is that they would be able to close that gap of earning, like their earning potential of 49,000 to 61,000 more, and enhance the economy of 128 billion to 188 billion by closing that gap. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that speech, Dr. Nadine. So now would you put 1 minute on the clock for us to write notes to Dr. Nadine?
No, my speech was too.
Time.
Thank you for that, Madam Timer. Our final speaker for tonight will be Lynn Fraley. And introducing Lynn will be her evaluator, telling us what the objectives of her speech is. And that will be Dr. Nadine James. Dr. Nadine?
Just a second here, I have it open. Okay, Lynn's is the title of her talk is Clearing Confusion About Breast Wellness. Lynn is in the pathway, and her speech is Visionary Communication, number 7, using descriptive language and she'll present a speech describing any topic in detail. And Lynn's introduction is, are you a woman or no one who may have heard conflicting information about breast care? Lynn Fraley is a registered nurse, holds a doctoral degree from the University of California, Berkeley in public health, and author of Cherish the Girls, a well-rounded approach to breast health and wellness. Today, she'll help us sort and shift some information with her speech, clarifying confusion over breast wellness. Lynn Fraley. Lynn, you're muted.
Thank you. Isn't there a bit too much confusion about what to do for breast wellness? Haven't you heard so many things about what to do, what not to do, to be worried about? I was drawn to this because I've spent my life in healthcare. I've had more than 35 years working as a registered nurse, and I know that there's a lot of dogma, conventional wisdom, quote unquote. And I've seen a lot of conflict with patients over time, people who over-identified with an illness, and that really prompted me to get more involved in challenging what I thought were some incorrect assumptions. The three things I'd like to bring to the table today about confusion regarding breast wellness. The first has to do with clarity, and I will say that this is a introspective look because we're all a subject of one. When it comes to clarity around breast wellness, there is a mandate that everyone should be getting mammograms all the time, every year, every 2 years. But the truth is, it's an overdiagnosed procedure, commonly given to women, and it doesn't really pick up the nuances. So although we're told that we should be clear about having these exams, the truth is that more than 40% of women have what are called dense breasts, and mammograms don't get a good read on that. So imagine going into a shoe store and having someone say to you, you know, I'm sorry, but your feet are just not right for our shoes. And you look at the salesperson, you're thinking, there is nothing wrong with my feet. In fact, you might want to take those feet and just get them, using them to get out of the store. If you can imagine a 10-pound bag of rice and imagine 5 10-pound bags of rice as pressure on the breast to get a mammogram so we can separate out the fat tissue from the glandular tissue. That's a lot of weight. It can cause pain. It can disrupt tumors. It does break tissue at times. And yet, with a dense breast, they'll say, well, maybe you need to come back again. So a lot of women are called back. So the clarity that we need to have is maybe why. The second point here has to do with courage. It takes a great deal of courage to look at the issue when we've been told what we should be doing. Courage comes from the word heart. And when we are more heart-centered and when we look at what it is that we know that serves us, we will be served better and we will serve people who are with us. It takes a lot of courage to tell your provider, for example, there's an exam I'd like to get that's a complement to mammogram, although technically we're supposed to have them both. If one doesn't work, why have both? But at this point in time, this heat-sensitive camera that will look at the circulatory changes in a thermogram will give women, in my belief, much richer data. Imagine seeing new circulation building in tissue, not waiting for a tumor to be found, but waiting for the road to be built as the tumor might be forming. And in fact, so early that could be reversed. Maybe it's time to take off the 20 pounds, the 30 pounds, the 40 pounds. Maybe it's time to say, I'm not going to be drinking a bottle of wine every night or a half a bottle. The courage to say to a doctor, you don't know about a thermogram. I understand that. They don't teach it in medical school. They've been around for as long as mammograms have. But there was a decision made, I'm going to call in a back room of maybe a radiologist's office, when a radiologist decided that, I'm guessing they were part of the plan, they would be there to read the mammograms, but they were not trained to read thermograms. You need a different set of skills to do that. And in fact, there's a decision tree that comes in here. When you have the courage to say to a provider, I'm choosing this form of care, the treatment can be different as well. Today, I read a research report. Now, many people know that chemo and radiation are conventional treatments for cancer of any kind with pretty poor outcome. Today, I read a report. And they said that 12% of this particular form of lung cancer, for example, the survival was 12% at 5 years, which meant they were probably not going to be year 6, or it was not a good prognosis. But in this research report, they described that these people could get palliative care. Now, in my mind, palliative care at that point might be a trip to the Bahamas with the warm sand and the beach and just living off my days. But in this research report, they talked about palliative care as being chemo and radiation. I thought, given how people suffer with that, I wouldn't call that palliative care. So moving on to the third point, it requires a certain amount of confidence when you are choosing to take matters into your hands and clarifying some confusion for yourself and choosing a form of care that you want for yourself. Imagine just being wrapped in a really comfy warm coat or a warm blanket on a cool day, that you have this physical comfort. And I'm going to have you keep that as an image for confidence. It requires confidence to be able to stand up to authorities or family members who say, you have to do this. This is what everyone does. Or with the insurance company says, we're not going to pay for that. When an out of pocket for a particular exam might be $250. I don't spend that money on shoes, but I know I have friends who will spend $250 on a pair of shoes. And I'm guessing it's not a shoe they're going to wear every day. Confidence to make the decision that you know that you need for yourself. There are women who pay a lot of money out of pocket after they've done a lot of conventional care. So sometimes these out-of-pocket costs are really exaggerated. You want to drop your confusion around health care and breast wellness and the cancer that always pops up. Take your time. Most of this is not an emergency. The house is not on fire. You may be sitting in the middle of a sales cycle when you were talking to a provider. They may say, well, we highly recommend this, and we think Tuesday would be a good day to start. That's our policy. You can say, I have a policy. My policy is to sit on this, so I'm not making a decision at the moment, but I appreciate your concern. Being our best self-advocate for our health is what I believe is the strongest, surest, safest way to clear confusion over breast wellness and any health challenges. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Lynn. So now, timer, would you put 1 minute on the clock for us to write notes to Lynn? Thank you. These words of wisdom comes from John Maxwell. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Something to think about. Next, I would like to bring up our table topics master for tonight, who will be Mario. Mario, would you step up to the podium?
Thank you, Toastmaster Isaac. Hello, everyone. I'm Mario. Today I'll be your table topics of the day. Words of wisdom. When I heard today's topic, reminded me a song of the Beatles. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be, by Paul McCartney. And I thought, what better way to start table topics but with inspirational quotes, which I will be having as prompts for today. So without any further ado, will be our first volunteer for today. This McLeod. Okay, I'm waiting.
Could you repeat the question?
I said I will be having inspirational quotes for today, and the quote for you is: "Character is how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Character is how you treat those who can do nothing for you." This McLeod.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. Great explanation. Character is the way you treat people who can't do anything for you. And the way I treat people who can't do anything for me is the same way I treat those who can do something for me. And that is by being respectful, by practicing excellence, and in some cases, by being loving, showing brotherly love towards that individual. Character is very important, because if you don't have character as a future leader, people will not genuinely follow you. So I try to treat everyone equal, from a 5-year-old to the president of a country. I'll treat you with respect. I'll treat you without prejudice, and I will treat you with love, brotherly love. Thank you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Taze. As we move on to our next table topic speaker, who would like to volunteer? Okay, B. Marie, Shy King. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. Take it away.
I am not going to go around trying to make up excuses and remember what I said to him or what I said to her. I am not going to worry about how I responded to anybody and try to make sure that all the stories, quote unquote, remain the same. How I avoid that is simply to be authentic and to tell the truth. When you tell the truth, you don't have to worry about going back and trying to remember who you said what to and what situation came up that made you say whatever. Telling the truth is the simplest way to just be your authentic self. If you are going to be your authentic self, if you are going to be transparent, somewhere in all of that, the truth should come out. If you're not telling the truth, there's a thing in psychology that's called passive aggressive, where you're manipulating other people with your lies. But telling the truth will shed the light on any situation and enlighten other people's day. They will tend to respect you. and they will know that you are not changing your story to fit the situation. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Marie. And Toastmaster, for how many speeches do we still have time?
Yes, we still have time. I would say maybe 2 more.
Okay, 2 more. Cynthia, would you like to go?
Yes, but I can't undo my video. We haven't heard from any guests.
Okay, Benjamin Baruch, would you like to take the podium? Or Judith?
Okay.
Okay. Your prompt is fail your way to success. Fail your way to success, Judith.
Failure ways to success, is that the quote?
Yes.
Well, Mr. Table Topic Master, I actually one of those people who don't believe that failure is necessarily the way to success. I know this is a very common saying, but in my own life, I didn't find when I failed, it leads to my success. So what happened to when I failed. So I get all depressed for 3 days, and then I figure out exactly how to move on so I don't fail again. But it didn't really encourage me to immediately be successful. I realized that that's the idea, that the more you fail, the more you learn. But I didn't actually learn from my failure. I just accepted that I failed. And then I found another ways to succeed whichever task I was working on. But it is an interesting idea. And I am just not one of the person that worked for it. But thank you for the quote.
Judith, and for our last speaker for today, Lynn, would you like to take the podium, or anybody else?
I would defer to Isaac, give him some airtime.
All right, Isaac, Toastmaster.
Okay.
Okay, your prompt is, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. Isaac.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Table Topics Master. I totally agree with that, because in this day and age, you can create your own success and your own career. I think of the music industry. Years back, everything was run by the studio execs, the major record companies. But today that's gone. You got artists who now can get on YouTube and Instagram, and they're creating their own success. They're not depending on a record company to promote their music. So I definitely agree with that, and can see a lot of people are doing that. So the question of creating your own future, your own success, is a thing that I truly believe in. And I'm trying to think, well, I could talk from my own personal experience. I ended up doing a restroom attendant service. And that was a job that most people thought, I don't want to do that. You can't make any money doing that. But it turned out to be the most successful thing that I've ever done. And so I created my own door because I was willing to do something that other people didn't want to do. And I think that that's the key to whatever it is you want to do. Just do whatever it is you feel. And 9 times out of 10, you've made the right choice to go with it all the way through. So thank you for that question, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Isaac. And with this, we will conclude our table topics for today. And I give the floor back to our Toastmaster, Isaac.
Great.
back.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario. Great job, man. Filling in at the last moment, and you came through like a champ.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to call on our general evaluator to take over the second part of the evaluation process. So, without further ado, Taze, would you take over the podium?
Thank you, Toastmaster of the meeting. I am the General Evaluator, T.S. McLeod, and I will take the lead from this part of the meeting, and I will call for our evaluators to come up and give their evaluations. So let's listen to our first evaluator. Just having a little, not a little, just having technical difficulties. With this device, right, should be sorted out. So I will call now on, I'm seeing Roslyn on the evaluation on the agenda, and Roslyn is not here.
No, it's Michelle Patacola.
Right, so I will call on Michelle to do evaluation for the number 3, our number 3 speaker.
Great. I'm going to be evaluating Nadine James. Nadine, it is an amazing speech. You have an amazing, powerful mission, and you are a powerful, inspiring speaker. You give examples of success that are mind-blowing. These 3 things will impact any audience that you speak in front of, however you deliver this speech. If you want to improve it, I have a few suggestions for you. To begin with, you have way more information in this presentation. Oh, by the way, you have great slides too. Very effective, very dynamic. Too much information for a 7-minute speech. This is probably more appropriate for a 20-minute speech. How do you compress a 20-minute speech into a 7-minute speech? One suggestion, do not speak faster, which is what I used to do. Try and cram it all in by speaking faster. You actually need to take more pauses so that you can allow your information to land. To make a 3-minute speech, I suggest you focus on 3 main points and use your testimonials, your successes, as examples of each of those 3 main points. And I'm not sure what those 3 main points are. You did mention that there were 2 things you were focusing on with your students: autonomy and deep concentration. Maybe that was the way in which you could take this speech. I'm simply talking about how can you create this speech so that you can do it in a 7-minute time frame. I know it's hard to keep that in, all the stuff that you have to share in 7 minutes, but you actually can do it. Delivery. Again, your delivery is very engaging. You have a very engaging voice. You have a very impactful presentation. Watch when you speak, which I have to do now because I'm not standing up, where your hands pop up in the screen. So either don't use your hands or move back a little bit so that people can see your hands with the full gesture. Be mindful of your gestures so that people will see the gestures as supporting what you have to say rather than distracting. Vocal variety. Most of the time, your vocal variety was very high energy. You might want to try pausing, and you might want to try, especially in the beginning when you're talking about the statistics, to have a graver tone of voice so that people are alerted to listening to you in a different way. Overall, what I said at the beginning, you are an amazing, impactful speaker, and you have really important information that needs to get out in the world. And in some ways, you don't have to listen to me at all because you can do this. And I look forward to seeing where you go with this speech. I want to see you in a TED Talks. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle Pentecolas, for that evaluation. Good job. Now I will call on Dr. Nadine to do the evaluation for our fourth speaker. So Dr. Nadine, the virtual lecture is yours.
Lynn Fraley. Lynn, first of all, I just want to comment that I think it's impactful how you did your screen, because you're just popping on the screen and you're centered, you know. I'm not sure what you did, but I like it. I really like your message, and you used a lot of descriptive words. Let me see, just a minute. I just want to go back to the title of your message. I want to be sure. Right. Clearing confusion about breast wellness and clarifying confusion over breast wellness. Your message, Lynn, is very important. And I really hope it reaches far and wide, because as you're telling us, you know, there are certain things. You spoke about the clarity, that we should have an introspective look. You spoke about courage, and that courage is heart-centered. You spoke about having confidence, and you spoke about the physical appearance and confidence to stand up to authority. And, you know, so many more women need to hear what you have to say, because they are ignorant to the fact that they don't have to have these 10-pound bags of rice sitting on their breasts, right? What they don't know is that these 5 10-pound bags, can you imagine that? Disrupt tumors. It not only causes pain, but it can disrupt tumors and cause all sorts of inflammation and all of that. Thank you so much for sharing this, and I really hope this message goes far and wide. One stretch goal that I would ask you in terms of the description. I thought you had a lot, but when you spoke about the 10-pound bags of rice, I would have liked if you emphasize that pain some more. you know, using something else that really emphasizes the pain that women will feel by going through having mammograms that are not necessary. And you know, and I'm sorry, there's something else that you said that I also liked when you spoke about that they should realize that they might not realize that they're a part of a sales cycle. So to drop the confusion, take their time, and be their best self-advocate. The other part that I would ask you to stretch as well. I didn't really see a lot of movement. I think you did speak as if you were a patient speaking to a doctor or something. I saw that part, but I didn't really see a lot of gestures or movement. And I think that's one thing that you could do as well. There was something else that I would have liked you to emphasize. palliative care, when you spoke about palliative care and you said for them, palliative care is chemo and radiation. And you were like, use something like lemons, you know, it's, I don't know, something like eating lemons or something like that, you know, to explain when you say palliative care is chemo versus radiation. Yeah, thank you so much. Again, job well done.
Thank you, Dr. Nadine, James, for that encouraging evaluation. Now I will call on our timer to give us their report, please.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. This evening, we heard a lot of speeches which we have to go home and look within ourselves, introspect our being and our thought as to what are we going to do with all this information we received this evening, which we can personalize to help us in the future. And our time went like this. Our first speaker, DeMarie King, she spoke for 7 minutes, 25 seconds. Our second speaker, Dr. Michelle, she spoke for 7 minutes, 55 seconds. Dr. James, a whopping 10 minutes and 5 seconds. And Lynn, 7 minutes, 25 seconds. For our table topics, we had Taze with 1 minute and 7 seconds. DeMarie King, 1 minute, 23 seconds. Judith, spot on, 1 minute. Isaac, 1 minute, 46 seconds. And for our evaluators, 2 minutes, 42 seconds. That was Lynn. DeMarie, 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Dr. Michelle, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. And Dr. James, 3 minutes, 55 seconds.
Oh my.
So some of us have to borrow from others to be within our time. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator, please.
Thank you for that efficient timers report. Now let's call on for our grammarian report. Is it Sally Rez?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you,
yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Words of wisdom today. We had introspection, Isaac 1, Michelle 1, DeMarie 1, Rosemary 2, and Lynn 2. I'm sure there were more, but couldn't hear any others. There was 3 ums and an ah in Nadine. So practice not filling the space, but with pause. I liked Nadine's word of disparity. I think we would need to use that a lot. Anyway, we have the wonderful things that I've heard were fervently negotiations, authentic, and focus on the positive, evaluate, palliative care, and focus on the positive. Twice I wrote that. Thank you so much for enlivening our groups and speeches and with wonderful words. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally, for that thorough grammarian report. We appreciate it. Now, the lectern will be turned towards me as I will be doing the general evaluator report. Let's begin with the room before the meeting started. The room was well. I know Isaac was in the room early as the Sergeant of Arms. That was a good, he does very well with coming very early and opening the room. He welcomed guests, he welcomed me when I entered. However, I just would like to touch on the fact that we have a guest from Uganda. It's 4 a.m. in the morning for him, And he asked a question, and his question was, what was this meeting about? What is this meeting about? And Isaac said, you'll soon find out. But according to the general evaluator checklist, guests should be informed about Toastmasters and the meeting format. So in that situation, it would have been nice maybe if Isaac said, you'll find out more about public speaking and leadership at this meeting. Maybe that could have been better, or that could have been better in terms for Isaac. In terms of the opening of the meeting, the Toastmaster of the meeting, again, was Isaac. He did a well job. He was obviously well prepared, well organized. Our meeting started on time as usual. And no one would have felt left out of our meeting because everyone was equally asked to say their name, to say where they're from. And our guests from Uganda said it's 4 a.m. So full marks for the opening of the meeting. We had all our meeting rules were filled out. It may have been almost like last minute, but we did it. And we are able to maintain the brand that we have from Leaders Worldwide. The Toastmaster of the meeting did a good job, explained the theme, and he developed his points throughout the meeting. He introduced me, and he introduced the table topics master very, very well. The grammarian was introduced. The only thing I think we could work on is possibly focusing more on reminding everyone the word of the day. I think the timer did a great job, introduced the roles when allotted. The grammarian did a fairly decent job, and everyone did their scripts well. We had our table topics master. He was asked last minute, but he did a good job. He asked questions that triggered deep answers from all of us, and he included our guests. Our guests got the opportunity to speak. So I want to wrap things up. The meeting is doing well. The meeting is running on time. And that's it for me as the general evaluator. So I believe I'll be turning the virtual lectern to our founding president, Cynthia Stott.
Great. And I'm going to stay off camera so that my Zoom call doesn't get interrupted by the bandwidth issues. That was great. And I love your evaluation, Taze. I know you're working on the general evaluator project, and you're bringing in other general evaluators, and you're going to train them. And that was a really good example of talking about the different roles and how they could be better and what we did well, which I think we did exceptionally well. I love the speeches. I think all the speeches were phenomenal. Just getting better and better. And the evaluations were superb as well. So that was great. I'm going to talk about the roles, getting some roles for our next meeting in the evening and also in the afternoon session. I'm going to talk about the afternoon session next week first. I know some of you aren't going to be here, but maybe some of you are. So, and then we're going to take some takeaways and chocolates and find out what you got from the meeting. Great. So in next week, it's May 8th, and we're going to have a very special meeting. We're going to talk about TEDx and what we're doing, why we're doing it. and maybe decide if we want to do it. I did do a survey, and one person said no, she doesn't want to do a TEDx event. All the rest so far have said that they do want to do it. But it's one thing to want to do it. It's another thing to be able to do it. And Easy Speak is how we create our agenda and fill the roles. To fill the roles for all the meeting, we put them in Easy Speak. And so it's the roadmap that's going to get us to a TEDx event. And a TEDx event is a very special thing. And no Toastmasters club has done it in the last decade. It wasn't since 2010 that one club, Toastmasters club in Bahrain, in the Middle East, did it in 2010 and has not done it since. And many Toastmasters are involved in helping to make those events happen by coaching people or speaking, being one of the speakers. But no Toastmasters clubs are actually organizing that event. And the reason is because it's a lot of work. And so maybe we don't want to do it. But the option to speak on a TEDx event, unless you're lucky enough to find one, and I've looked, it's hard. I know a lot more about how to get on them now, but they charge $7,000 for you to get on a TEDx event. And I think putting our elbow grease together is much better than spending that kind of money. So we want to talk about the Easy Speak and how to create it and craft it and why we need to do it and how to get the roles in there. And then we're going to talk about the TEDx event. So we're not going to have prepared speakers on May 8th. We're going to check in with all of the members and make sure they can speak at a different time. And we do have Dr. Nadine James is Toastmaster of the day. Are you still prepared to do that? It's Toastmaster General Evaluator Combination. Dr. Nadine?
Yes, next week?
Yes, next week, May 8th.
Right, yes, sure, that's fine.
Great. And then we have grammarian is Sally Reyes. And is that okay with you? Just verifying your role. Sally?
Unmute.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, great. And then Isaac, you're listed as a table topics master. We're going to do a lot of questions and answers. So I don't think we're going to have time for table topics, but we don't have a timer. Would you mind being our timer instead?
Yeah, I can do
Isaac.
that.
Awesome. And hopefully we'll have a lot of time for questions and answers and back and forth so that we can get our questions answered and move forward. Because honestly, we haven't been able to start a TEDx event organizing for well over a year because we have not organized ourselves in the agenda and making sure that the meeting runs smoothly. So it's really important to do Easy Speak. And if Easy Speak is done, I worked with Isaac this afternoon, and not Isaac, Taze, and he was going crazy as a general evaluator, trying to get the evaluations and the speakers connected. And I was like, you wouldn't have to do any of this if the speakers and the evaluators had done their Easy Speak like last week, so we'd be prepared. So it's about being prepared ahead of time to make things run smoother for everyone. So great. So we will not have the speakers speaking next week. On the 23rd, the 22nd is the next afternoon session. We do have one speaker speaking, which is Isaac Ford on the 22nd. Are you prepared for that? That's at 10:30 in the morning. Pacific time. Okay. And we don't have any other speakers, so we do have room for them. And then we have Taze McLeod is a TMOD and general evaluator combined. Is that on your schedule, Taze? Are you okay with that?
Okay, well, just tell me the date one more time.
The date is May 22 at
Okay.
10:30 a.m. Pacific time.
Yes, I'm okay
Mhm.
with it. May 22.
Yes. Okay, great. And then Maya Catherine, who's not here, will be the table topics master. Okay. And then Ryan will be the timer. And no, Dee Marine's not going to be in it, so they won't have a grammarian. Okay, so we have some roles prepared. And then 2 weeks from tonight is May 15th, and we're going to do also a special evening that we cover both the afternoon and the evening sessions with the Easy Speak and the TEDx information so that everybody's on the same page. And let's see. So we don't have any roles yet set up for that 2 weeks from now. The speakers again will be me and Tala, possibly, but maybe somebody else will want to join in and talk about Easy Speak. Maybe Lydia can try to speak about Easy Speak. But we do need a timer and a Toastmaster of the day. We probably don't need a separate general. We have a general evaluator set up.
Cynthia, you are sounding very, very, very soft.
Cynthia, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Hayes, do we have a general evaluator set up for May 15?
Nope.
No, I thought
No, I haven't gotten in contact with Alex at all.
at
And
all.
he-
Okay.
And he isn't here tonight either.
Okay.
I
You
was
can
hoping he
email
would have
with
been
him.
here.
Also what?
I email him, but he doesn't respond to the email.
Okay. Okay. So does anyone
So I
want
could do
to
it if
be-
he doesn't do it.
if he doesn't do it, you'll be here to do it. Okay. And we may not need a general evaluator because we're not going to have a lot of prepared speeches. We're just going to be talking about Easy Speak and talking about the TEDx, but maybe we want to evaluate those speakers. So we'll think about it. But we need a timer. Does anyone want to be a timer on the evening, same time as this in 2 weeks, which is May 15th? And we need a TMOD. Okay. So I don't know.
So I can
Okay.
either be a Toastmaster of the day or a timer. Timer, I'm not always great at timing, but either one, whichever one you need.
What is that on?
That's the evening session of May 15 in 2 weeks at 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. Is that the one you asked me to be Toastmaster? No, that's next week.
No,
Right,
yeah.
so I could be timer and I don't know.
I'll be the TMOD.
Did you need a speech?
So we're going to give speeches on TEDx, about our TEDx event, and we're going to give about Easy Speak. So was that I forgot to have somebody to be a scribe for me. Darn.
Okay, so far, let's just go over that real quickly. You've got me as the Toastmaster. Taze, are you doing? And Nadine is the timer. And
Taze will be either the general evaluator or he'll get a general
From-
evaluator.
general
For May
evaluator.
5th. For
On
May
May
15th.
15th. Yeah,
Okay, can you write those down
yeah,
for me?
I
Okay,
got it.
great. And
And
I
you
think,
and Tala are going to be the speakers on Easy Speak and on TEDx. Are you having any other speakers?
no.
Okay.
There's no room for it because we're going to do Q&A and we're going to talk about it and we're just going to really make some decisions as a club because we can't do TEDx if we're not prepared.
And
It's
Cynthia, when are we doing the voting for the officers for next year?
we need to do that on the 15th, or
I thought
we
you wanted to
haven't
do that
scheduled
in
it.
an afternoon or just before the morning session, or were you doing it just before the evening
Before-
session?
I can't remember, and our executive committee didn't decide. We're meeting this Friday, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
I sent
think
the
it's-
email out.
Yeah, it's good if we meet and then decide on that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to keep it in your forefront because.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then did we talk about, Isaac, you're going to be the timer next week on the 8th instead of the Toastmaster, Table Topics Master, right?
Yes,
Yes.
that's
And
correct.
Nadine is the Toastmaster
Yes.
/
I'm the
GE.
timer.
Okay. And the timer. Okay. And I think that's all we need. And if you could write that down for me too, Michelle, I'd really appreciate it. And our speakers are going to be shifted because we really need to talk about this information. So we really appreciate Taze and switching his time to speak. Okay, great. So quickly, we'll takeaways and chocolates. There was a lot that we learned and took away from this meeting today. So I'd like to hear from some of our guests. First, Mario, what did you take away with you?
First of all, thanks for having me as a guest and giving me the opportunity to be the Table Topics Master. Takeaways from today: 4 very good speeches, and I learned a lot while listening to them. Also giving some feedback. So again, thank you for having me, and see you next time.
Awesome. And it's our tradition to give away chocolates or any other treat. I know it's very early in the morning for you. What would you like?
They're virtual, they're not real.
They're yes. We can't send them over the internet.
Not
I'll
yet.
take chocolate. Vanilla.
Cynthia,
I don't know. Vanilla
You want
chocolate.
vanilla?
Yeah.
Or a white chocolate? Is that what you
White
want?
chocolate, right?
White chocolate. I know that's Carrie's favorite. Okay. Here comes some white chocolate. Do you want some nuts or anything with it?
Just white.
Just plain. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Great. Enjoy, Mario. Thank you. And let's see. Benjamin, are you still there? I know it's early morning for you as well. Benjamin's not there.
he's still got his video slide up there, but I don't know if he's behind it or he's fallen asleep behind it.
Okay. And Rosemary, you were a guest tonight in our timer. What are you taking away with you? Because you, as the timer, you got to listen to everybody very intensely.
As I say, we got so much information this evening. It's like everyone spoke to each other before coming to give us their speech. From Marie, where she's saying to stand up for ourselves. And then Dr. James is standing up, not only for herself, but for the children. And the children are doing so good when she helped them. To Michelle, seeing that when she stood up, she got a mentor and she could figure out so many things. And as for Dr. Lynn, where she's giving us information so that we can stand up for ourselves with those heavy pounds of things on our poor little breasts. It was so informative this evening. I will be taking away and going over everyone's speech in my mind during the course of this week. It was really informative.
Yes. I think they're really informative because we're practicing for TEDx. We're really getting ready to share an idea we're spreading. And I heard lots of ideas we're spreading tonight. It's wonderful. Beautiful. Would you like a chocolate, Rosemary? Mary?
Yes, I would. Love any chocolate you love, I would want it. I'd like to taste your favorite.
My favorite is Belgian dark chocolate with almonds and sea salt.
Okay.
I'll hand some over. 1, 2, 3. Woo!
Thank you. Woo.
You're welcome. Yes. And Carrie, we didn't hear from you at all. You're kind of in the background tonight. Carrie, are you there? Are you available with your mic? Maybe she's not. Okay. And Dee Marie, what are you taking away with you?
Okay, you gotta give me some
Oh.
time to get to the mute button.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I plan to stay in the background today because I was taking notes from the master TMOD Isaac Ford today.
Yes.
And so yeah, no, this was a good meeting. The speeches were great as usual. And yeah, I want white chocolate. So I'll go there. Thank you.
I will say that our speeches, if you go to other Toastmasters clubs, you don't see the caliber that we have here. I really think we've got something special with these speakers. So it's really quite amazing. But here comes some white chocolate plain.
White chocolate with the white chocolate. Okay, let me try it again. White chocolate truffles, please.
Oh, okay. White chocolate truffles coming your way.
Thank you.
Okay, and then now over to you, Dee Marie.
So I think the overall meeting was absolutely phenomenal. The speeches were inspiring and very informative. So much information. Oh my goodness. And to present the information in an inspiring and motivating way was just great. And I got that from all the speeches. So thank you. Thanks to everyone for that.
Exceptional speeches.
Meeting itself was great. We got started on time. Mario pitched in and did the table topic. So everything was top notch. Thanks to everyone.
Okay. And you gave a new speech tonight. Wasn't that a new speech? At least here. I hadn't heard it before.
I did, and I meant to correct the title of that speech was Silent Negotiations.
Whoa.
And I think
Ooh.
Yes, and because I didn't even know I was negotiating. And after it was over, it was apparent that I had been in the negotiation of my life. And I simply stood on my understanding of who I am as a person, my ethics in business and my performance. And I won the negotiations.
Yes, yes.
And oftentimes
that's
we're
power.
all, the big part of that, I'm sorry, oftentimes we're all in silent negotiations and we don't even realize it. And what I mean by that is we're being tested. We're being tested to see if we can stand our ground and stand on what we know to be right for us. And we need to do that. But we need to also excel and be excellent as we do that. And then the other person will get it.
Beautiful. And I love that, silent negotiations. It's a really good TED title or portion of a TED title because it's very intriguing. I love that. I love that. And would you like a chocolate or a treat?
They say that dark chocolate is good for calming the spirit and it helps with preventing depression. So I'll take a dark chocolate, please.
Okay. Plain dark chocolate or with almonds or?
Plain dark chocolate.
Just plain. Woohoo. Yes. Good. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Healthy dark chocolate and delicious.
So much.
Awesome. Well, that's 8 o'clock. I wish I could hear from everyone, but I will bid you adieu. Wonderful meeting, wonderful speeches, wonderful evaluations. Let's just keep going. And we'll have a wonderful